It's that time of the year to start thinking about fresh greens again. The seed catalogs are appearing in the mail every day, so it's time to pull out the grow light stand and get started planting. My stand was featured in the December 15, January 16 Mother Earth News on page 53. The stand is made from ash that I cut in my backyard, and as you can see, it easily breaks down for storage. There are two uprights that are just a couple of pieces of ash that were tenioned and glued together to support the stand. Now in the middle of them, to mount the shelves, there are some brass inserts so that they can be easily screwed together, and the screws can be easily removed later. And there is a main shelf that mounts in the middle between the two uprights, and that has a couple pieces on it to give it some support. On the bottom of this shelf are a couple hangers for the bottom light fixture. Then there's another shelf that just slides in the bottom to hold the bottom row of plants. Then there's just a support that goes across the top and hold the top row of lamps. For the assembly, all the components have a matching letters in the areas where they go mate together, just to make it easy to remember how to put it back together in the springtime. We start by laying one of the uprights on the side, and then taking the shelf and inserting the two screws that hold that in place and tightening them. The assembly takes probably about maybe 5 minutes or so, but by being able to break it down, it really makes it a lot easier for me to be able to take it apart and store it during the off season, and it makes it a lot lighter to move the individual pieces. I also have a set of casters that can be used in place of the leveling studs on the uprights for times when I want to be able to move it around easily. After assembling the first side, then I just flip it around and lay it down on its back, and I insert the two screws that hold the other upright in place. I keep saying to myself that someday I want to replace these screws with thumb screws, so there'll be no tools required for assembly, but somehow I just keep on forgetting to do it until the day that I am assembling it. On the bottom of the shelf, you can see that I inserted a couple of hangers from a suspended ceiling tile system to hang the bottom light. The next thing I do basically is just flip it up and place the top light mount on top of the unit. That just drops over a couple of studs. The studs were supposed to be for mounting table legs, and I just picked them up in a local hardware store, but they actually worked good in my application here. I place a couple of nylon washers on, and then there's one thumb screw that gets screwed onto either side to tighten everything up. So you can see that the entire stand is really pretty easy to break down and assemble, and it only takes a couple pieces of hardware. And the last thing that you do is you just drop the bottom shelf in between the two uprights, and it locks in the notches. The light fixtures were just a couple of diamond plate shop light fixtures that I purchased at Home Depot, and the bulbs that I used are 4-foot T8 Philips Alto bulbs that are a 6500K daylight and a 2750 lumen output. I have had really good luck growing with these bulbs, and luckily they are fairly inexpensive. The bottom light hangs from the bottom of the shelf, and as you can see, it's adjustable on chain, so it can be easily moved up and down. Now for the top lights, I used the same fixtures, but this time I used two of them. I originally started out with one fixture, but I only had two flats underneath it, and I decided I wanted to be able to put the flats the other way. So I switched over to two fixtures, and I mounted a piece of reflective aluminum foil in between them just to provide a little bit more reflection of the light. And I also used the same bulbs. And the light fixtures are just connected together with a couple of thin walnut strips, and the hooks are on them so that I can just hang the chains and adjust them up and down the same as the bottom. It's really good to try to keep the light bulbs as close to the plants as you possibly can. Now, as I originally said before, I had started out with just one fixture on the top and one fixture on the bottom, and it was able to hold 4 flats of plants. But I realized that just was not enough room, so that is when I expanded to the second light fixture on the top, and I widened it out a little bit. Someday I think I'd like to switch over to LED lights if I can find some that meet the same specs as the Philips Alto bulbs do. To hold the bulbs with the wider trays in the crosswise position there, what I basically do is I put down a piece of plastic first that I've cut to fit there just to keep moisture from damaging the wood. And then I made some maple grates that were just pieces I stapled together that just sit across the shelf to allow it to give support to the flats in the opposite direction and not have any parts hanging off. Another use I found for these slat pieces that I made, they really work good in the off season to hold canning jars when they come out of the canner for cooling. So they serve 2 purposes. And this is just basically what the assembled plant stand looks like. I always start my seed trays on top of my refrigerator where it's really warm and helps them to germinate a lot quicker before I transfer them over to the grow light stand. I always do a batch of fresh lettuce before I start any of my later plants for the garden, my tomatoes and peppers and whatnot. I purchased a bunch of starter trays and little mini greenhouses and stuff at Walmart, but I think you could probably find them anywhere. When the plants outgrow these little starter trays, what I do is in BJ's I purchase like 1,000 16-ounce styrofoam cups and I poke 3 holes in the bottom, and then I just later transfer the larger plants to them and just keep moving the grow lights up until they ready to go out in the garden. The good thing about using the trays and the styrofoam cups is that they can just be reused over and over again year after year without having to make any waste. I purchased all my seeds from the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, and they have a real good selection of many types of heirloom seeds that are not available anywhere else. And all their seeds are tested and guaranteed to be GMO free, so that way you at least know what you'll be eating in the future. I will be doing another video about starting the seeds shortly. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.